This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Hey, Erica, how are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
I am super excited to bring as a guest our podcast, Vin de Matteo. Vin, I've been trying to get you on this podcast. It feels like months, right? We finally found a slot that works. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me on to the podcast. We were just saying I've really been enjoying listening to the other episodes. And when you messaged to say, Vin, would you like to come on? Yes, I would definitely like to be on. So thank you so much for the invitation. Good to be here.
Awesome.
Lovely. So Alex, Vin and I met through video, right? I was looking for someone to help me with some video creation, and that's how, actually, no, Vin, that's not how we met. We met through TV, right?
We did indeed.
Oh,
yes.
That's when you were still at Sky doing awesome, exciting stuff, but with video, right? Through television. And we've just stayed in touch because video is good, right?
It's
Absolutely.
very important.
So, Vin, introduce yourself to Alex, to our listeners. Where are you now? What is it? And what is it about video that you love?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I actually started my marketing and advertising career initially in radio and spent a few years there before heading over to Sky. And when I was at Sky, where I met you, Erica, we discussed TV and how exciting, and you can be in front of the right audience across lots of different channels, and that was very exciting. However, when I was there, I found that most people get more excited about creating the content and creating the ads, because as important as planning who you're trying to target with the audiences, people get more excited about being on set or producing an animation for their TV concept. So that's kind of what brought me to the other side, from being on the media owner side over to video.
So when Alex and I did a lot of work in TV, the amount of work we had to do in terms of the media booking and all that, no one saw that, right? All they saw was the final output of the video. That's where everyone got excited. We're like, that was less than 10% of the work we had to do. That's what everyone loved.
I think everybody just thought that's all we did was create nice looking things, but actually the hard work came after that, or during, and because you're always trying to create the best media planning and optimizing as you're going along. But I feel like we might have crossed paths at some point, Vin, during my time at MediaCom, working with people at Sky. So I don't know if you were working with anyone at MediaCom, but probably...
I wasn't personally, but certainly it's a big old team at Sky, right? So yeah.
Okay, cool. So how did you find the transition from media owner to more of the production side?
Well, I think it definitely gave me a good head start, being on that side. And whilst I wasn't always involved in the production process, I tried where possible to kind of ensure that our objectives were the same. Because I guess, occasionally what would happen is we'd speak to the business owners when I was at Sky's side, media owner side at Sky, and the media owner would say, the client would say they wanted to sell more of something, and the asset or the video or the ad that we would receive was kind of it was beautiful, but it'd be a branding ad. And actually the challenge then becomes proving attribution. So I think this boils down to what you always say on your podcast is know your target audience, know what it is you want to say, and deliver it to them. The branding side will come the more you do it. That was a challenge we definitely had, in my time there.
And it's about understanding the purpose of this video, right? Because if you want to do branding videos, then know that, right?
Yes.
be clear that this is what you're going to do. I'm thinking of, and Alex, was it 2 weeks ago, whenever we spoke about the Christmas ads, right? The Coca-Cola Christmas ad and the John Doe's. Those are branding ads. Okay, those are branding ads. They're very clear on what it is. They create it annually. They're pretty. They create emotions. They're not measuring direct sales off that. It's not happening. But if you want a direct sales ad, number one, you have to have call to actions everywhere, because how else are you going to measure this? And it's got to be clear, right? So know what you want to do with this ad.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is also a really important point, is that video can play a part in lots of different activities or different plans that you have for your marketing, because it can help with every element of the buying process. It can help you afterwards. It can help you remarket if you've missed people. So I think you could have video at every stage of that journey, but it's not always possible due to budgets, or because you obviously have other tools at your disposal as well. So I think that's definitely one thing to consider, is make sure you know the video, who the video is directed at, what you want them to do, and what action you want them to take. Definitely.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it's just always about the purpose. Like that's the key thing always, and understanding as well. I've seen many adverts that are just constantly running and running and running and running and running and running and running, and we came across, obviously that the ad fatigue. Actually, we did an episode the other week, didn't we, about is ad fatigue a real thing or not?
Yeah, we did.
Right? Remember that episode? But we, like, in terms of the realm of direct response marketing and direct response TV, ad fatigue was a real thing. What was our cycle normally? Like on average, it was something like
4 months.
4 months or something like that, where it was like, okay, well, now we can see we're getting diminishing returns, and now we need to get a new ad creative in there. That's also something that people should be aware of, and I think to have in the back of the mind. And we always had that in terms of the production. I don't know if you're doing that now, Vin. Like, we used to try and let's say, to squeeze the lemon as much as possible. So when we were in the studio making a TV commercial, we would make variations. We'd make a completely different concept, but trying to use the set in a different way, different
Same
clothes,
actors.
same actor clothes and stuff like that. Just trying to maximize our budget as much as possible, with kind of sort of the medium term vision that this year we're going to need maybe 4 different creatives, 4 main different creatives, and maximize that time in the studio. Do you ever have those conversations with the clients, like trying to think about those creative processes?
Yeah, all the time. I think a big challenge at the moment for marketeers is they're being asked to drive more with less budget. And that's exactly right, Alex. When we're having conversations now, it's very much around, we want to work on this project. So let's just, because we talked about TV earlier, say it's for a TV ad, but we also want to replicate that or have something specific to YouTube, TikTok, Insta, Facebook, all the other platforms as well. So you're exactly right. When we're on set and we're shooting content, we have to think, does this work? What we're trying to shoot now for TV, does it work for the other platforms? And I think that's we have to now think universally of all the platforms that are available, and to help clients and marketeers get the most value, right?
Yeah.
And formats, right? We did long form TV. So you did the 5-minute slot, and then the 2-minute cut down, and the 1 minute, and the 60-second cut down, and then the 30-second cut down, so that you made sure your script worked, so that you're still getting a powerful message in 30 seconds as you're getting in your 10 minutes, all right? Like, you just need to make sure it works. But you have to plan. That doesn't just come naturally, right? You have to think about it and plan.
You're right. And I think the other challenge you have is, or consideration, is that we need to shoot content differently for the different platforms as well, because it doesn't all work if we just resize size the video, it doesn't just always work automatically like that. And we want to make sure we maximize on engagement, and it'll sit differently for different audiences on those different platforms. So yeah, that's something else for us to consider.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No, I was just going to say about the cutting down, just from like a personal experience of how it just really doesn't work, and it can be just trying to fit a square peg into a triangular hole, trying to cut down a TV ad to a TikTok ad, and also just the formatting is different, and the way people engage and the way people are viewing or consuming the content is different from TV to TikTok, and the way that you need to express your key points is different from TV to TikTok. TikTok is very what's the terminology where it's like like instant gratification kind of thing, more than TV. People are more kind of invested in a show or an advert or whatever on TV than they are in TikTok. It's like, so you need that instant grab, the instant hit of serotonin.
Yeah, it's just like the right hook early on to make sure that the viewer is engaged enough to view the rest of the content, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And so what is the most common video type you do? Is TV still a thing? Like, are people still doing TV ads, or they moved completely onto YouTube now? What do you find, Vin?
Yeah, I think so. It does completely vary because there are so many different types of video for different types of the buying process, top of funnel, bottom of funnel. But generally, a lot of the work that we do tends to be TVCs, so TV commercials. And because the broadcasters are now being very smart with offering different solutions, and perhaps where TV wasn't accessible before for smaller brands, it now is. So we work a lot with new to TV brands, challenger brands that are looking to scale quickly. So they think TV is a good platform for them. But with that, because they're smaller and they're challenger brands, they're not spending multi-million-pound budgets, right, for the ad spend. So they spend much smaller budgets, but they want to prove the concept works before investing kind of more budget into a platform. They want to test the concept, test that it works, see what they get from it, and then reinvest later. So I'd say Fable Studios tend to do a lot of TV ads, but then, like we've been saying, there's lots of different platforms now. So we get asked for content on YouTube, to produce content specifically for YouTube, explainer videos as well.
Wow.
We work fairly often with brands across finance, which I know you're linked to, Erica, in your background. And there are lots of complicated products and services, and quite often unsexy products and services that we need to make look and sound wonderful and that solve a solution. And I think video is a really clever way to explain the benefits of those products sometimes. So we get asked, on a fairly consistent basis about, we need to talk about this. How do we make that sound good? So I would say they're probably the top videos we get asked for.
And we linked to that is in the regulated financial services arena, there's a lot of rules and regs, which, a lot of people say, oh, you can just do video on your, on your cell phone now, you can just do that. But then you're skipping through all those rules and regs, which will get you big fat fines, right? And that's why working then with a reputable agency like yourself, who knows that, will steer the client and make sure that not only is the content good quality and actually does the job, but actually also ticks all the boxes, right? So that you don't get a nasty brown envelope in the post.
Yeah, that's one you want to avoid, definitely. I think with specifically with TV advertising, there's an organization called Clearcast who are there to protect the media owners and other viewers. So you have to go through this process where you get an advert cleared for broadcast, essentially. And that process generally can take anything from a couple of weeks right up to several months, depending on the complexity of what you're trying to say. So for a financial services brand, that's a long process. more often than not, because they have to clear it with their legal compliance team. Then they have to go to Clearcast and say, can we say this? And then they need substantiation. And so that journey can be quite challenging as well. But, you know, production agencies like ourselves kind of handle that for the advertisers, to try and make that a little bit more simple to understand, because it can get very complicated talking to different people in different places. So yeah,
and you don't want to do a 60, 70, 80,000, 100,000 pound shoot and then get to Clearcast and they say, sorry, that's not going anywhere. And you're like, well, damn.
Exactly.
I've got to go back to the drawing board and go back to the CFO and say, remember that 100,000 that you signed off for the beautiful ad that we did that we showed you the week? Yeah, it's not going live.
No, thankfully the process involves like there's a 3-step process to it. So the first step is that you have to get the script approved, which is great because you hopefully don't end up in that situation, Alex. But then after that, you then upload a rough cut, which is kind of an example of how the video will look and sound, and then you upload the final version of that. So it's not perfect by any means, the setup of Clearcast, but it's very important, and it's done in a way that should be and can be kind of more simple to understand if you work with agencies like ourselves or other production agencies to help you along the way.
Absolutely. So Vin, tell me what a good brief looks like. What's in a good brief?
A good brief would involve as much information as possible. The amount of times that we work with people where we get, I need a video for this platform about this as a starting point, as a brief. And whilst that's a starting point of some kind, it doesn't give us enough information about exactly what we need. So it would be good to learn about what it is you're trying to achieve out of the video, which we said earlier. Who is it targeting? Why are we targeting these people? What makes them tick? What makes your target audience engage? What have you tried before that has or hasn't worked? Which platforms is it going to be on? How often and how long are you going to use this particular video for? Because then we have to think about usage if you're using actors and voiceover artists. Have you got any existing assets that we can make use of? Because quite often clients have some assets and we can incorporate those into the production, which obviously alleviates the costing pressures, and we can use those to either create a whole video ad, or we can use other, live action, animation, etc. as well. But I would say the best projects generally come out with or from the best briefs. The more information you can, the more data you can supply as well. That's quite exciting for us, even though it doesn't sound like we want to talk numbers, being creative. It's really important for us to understand why people react the way that they do, your target audience. Also, we need to know the stakeholders involved in the process, your deadline, when you want to be on air, or when you want this to go live on social, or when you want it live on your website. So there's so many different elements, and it's we have a briefing document which we share with our clients, which makes hopefully a little bit more sense with what I've just said, so they can kind of work their way through and provide us with the right information. If the information's not available, then we understand it's not available. But I think to get the best brief, as much information as possible, links to libraries, stock imagery, etc., that they might have as well.
So the sounds like the key to a good brief is not to be brief.
Exactly. Yeah. Ironically. Yeah. Absolutely. The more information, the better. Most definitely.
And I mean, one thing you didn't mention, but I know you thought about this, is brand guidelines and tone of voice,
yes,
right?
of course. Yeah,
what are your color schemes? Are you a fun, jovial brand, or are you an insurance company who's not fun and jovial, right?
Yeah,
like you need to understand all of that, because the concept that you propose could be completely jarring with your brand tone.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's quite often that can also be the instigator for companies then going, oh my gosh, we need to sort our brand guidelines out because we don't have
Exactly.
any.
I
You'd be
would.
surprised to know how many do not have any.
Oh,
Well, they can send you the logo and
Yeah.
tell you the font. That's about it, right?
yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
So I just got I've got kind of a two-pronged question.
Hmm.
Just going back to an earlier part that we were talking about. So the traditional TV channels, they still exist, but they also can now be consumed in different ways. So for example, Disney or Sky or whatever. Before we were always watching it on a TV, a fixed TV in our home. And now you can watch the Disney channel on your phone or on your computer or tablet or whatever. So before, when we were creating adverts and we had a number on there, for example, we would know that it's going to be on average this size in front of them. But now that everything's got a lot smaller, and you have to think about the information you're putting on there. I mean, I guess you now have there's a sort of middle ground that you need to find when you're creating a TV ad that will be distributed across different formats, digital and the TV on the phone or whatever. So I guess that's something as well that's an additional piece of information that you now need to think
Yeah,
about when creating the production. That's kind of just something I wanted to comment on, and like how you kind of go around that. And then the second part of my question has flown out of my head and gone on holiday. And
that's
I can't
fine.
remember what it was now. So
Well,
No,
let Vin
no
answer
worries.
the first one. It will come to you.
that's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, so again, this kind of ties in nicely with what we were saying about the brief, is knowing which platforms the content's going to be distributed on. And for that reason, we would then know what size the output needs to be resized to, like what format as well, because quite rightly you've said different platforms will operate with different formatted of video. And not only that, but then if the client or the advertiser is doing out of home or print or other marketing channels, then we can also ensure that we provide kind of stills for those, for the other platforms as well.
Okay, nice.
Oh,
So
that's a good point.
I remembered my question that leads on from that. So because now we have so many different formats and ways of consuming, let's say I was just running a normal TV ad, but it was going across the different formats that they have and the different platforms they have. What does the tracking look like these days? And what is, I don't know, just if you could just sort of talk about the different types of tracking available, especially across different formats within one TV channel, for example, or
Yeah.
if you're doing multi-channel campaigning from TikTok to LinkedIn to TV.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we don't get involved massively into like the analytics of like post campaign or like live in a campaign. So we don't have access to any particular platforms, but I know the broadcasters tend to have, for their digital offerings and their VOD offerings, quite often they'll have their own or addressable platforms. They'll have their own kind of measurement systems, and quite often they can be. And I'll use Sky as an example. With their addressable ad smart proposition, they have a, a system which can tell you your conversions based on like viewers then visiting the website. So it's called a web attribution tool. So it's about establishing which households have seen the ad and whether they've acted and visited the website, which can be pretty powerful to kind of showcase the effectiveness. I know they do a lot. The broadcasters themselves do a lot around kind of brand pieces for larger brands, where they just look at brand uplift as well. But I don't know exactly what that entails because it's a slightly different part of the journey, the marketing journey.
And I guess again, it's from the upfront brief is what are you trying to achieve, right? If it's visits to the website, then
Yeah.
you need to put that tracking in place
Yeah.
and and track visits to the website. If it's actual purchases, then you need to be able to, and what we did in our old days is put unique phone numbers on per channel, right? So that we knew, you know, this channel is this phone number, this channel is this phone number. And so we had a bank of phone numbers, and we could then, we knew exactly people phoning this number were coming from that channel. And so it was quite manual, but it helped us in terms of really understanding our return. But you know, I think it comes down to what is it you're trying to achieve? Therefore, how do you measure it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just thinking about some of the clients we've worked with where they've told us that their objective is to sell a product or a service, and they've briefed us, and we've purposely been quite direct with our responses in terms of our creative response. So if you think about most TV ads, you don't see the brand until the end. And which is fine if you're a Nike, an Adidas, a well-known brand. But if you're new to TV or a challenger brand that is just entering the market, then it's really important that you're on screen for as long as possible. So we always kind of try and think, how can we get the most value and most engagement with the potential viewer? Is it the VO? Is it we've got the logo, the contact details on screen all the time? And actually we do that quite often for kind of newer brands. But yeah, certainly the measurement side of things is it definitely boils down to who you're trying to target, what do you want them to do, and are they doing it? You know, go and measure it and find out if they're doing what you want them to do. And if not, A/B test.
Yeah,
Come back and
absolutely.
do something else. And it might be some elements, you know, some elements of your content's been working really well. Keep those good things in the next piece of copy, and then just keep adapting, amending. Like brands don't find this magic ad that works across all platforms with one message, all looking and sounding the same. They do a lot of testing in the background as well, and they test different audiences against different ads, which is important to have a think about.
Yeah, we used to cause many a headache in the regions that we used to advertise in when we were doing direct response TV. We were advertising in sort of, I would guess, new markets for digital for direct response TV, and we'd be sending the TV stations like hundreds of telephone numbers because we wanted a different telephone number for every single channel, and then we wanted a different telephone number for a 30 or 60 or 90-second ad. So then suddenly previously they would just receive one TV ad, and now we sent them codes for like 300 different codes, and I think they were probably all had a heart attack at one, like, what? And we used to get so many angry phone calls going, what the hell are you doing? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. This is how we know what we're doing.
And then we had to watch them because we went, no. This
Yeah.
channel is supposed to have number 002
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
This is double. You put the wrong ad on. We had lots of fun, Alex. Lots of fun.
I
Dear.
wondered if we could just bring one thing up. AI.
Yes, go for it.
So I think there's a misconception about AI with a lot of people. And I think, and I'll give you an example. So we had a client who we've worked with on a few projects, and she's commissioned us to produce a few TV ads. And she emailed me one particular day quite recently and asked whether we use AI to produce content. And that was kind of the only question I had in the email. The only correspondence was, do you use AI? So I spoke with her on a phone call, and it turns out the reason she was asking whether we used AI to produce content was because she wasn't sure she had enough budget to produce what she actually wanted to produce. So the automatic thought process was, I'm going to use AI because it's cheaper. And actually, we delivered in the end, once we had that conversation and established what it was that she was trying to achieve, we established that we could help her using, different, stock footage and voiceover and graphics and it wasn't AI, it was a person producing the content. So I think there's definitely conversations to have around AI. It's going to be phenomenal, I think, in the next few years as it grows and it evolves. At the moment, it's still in its infancy. It's very powerful and it can help us be more effective sometimes, keep costs down for certain things, make us more productive. However, it's not perfect. Just like working with a person isn't always perfect. So I think it's our job to make sure that we keep educating our clients and our customers. And sometimes, you know what, AI will be the right thing for them to produce some content because they need lots of outputs by tomorrow and they've only got so much money to spend and invest into the creation. But that's just one example that we've had very recently where we thought, actually we can help. And it was just the question, do you use AI? Why are you asking us that question? Let's find out. Let's unravel that. So, and that turned out great for us because the client was really happy because she realized that we could deliver something for her budget that she was really happy with. And she'd worked with us before, so she understood how we work. She likes to work with us, whereas she doesn't know much about AI and she would have had to go and explore and research and everything as well. So, yeah, I thought I'd share that anecdote with you.
I think that's a great point because I do see a lot of people going, oh, look at this video done by AI, look at this video done by AI. And every now and again you see a seventh finger or like something weird going on.
Yeah.
Like if you look carefully, you could
fingers is not normal.
But also I think AI is not going to catch all the legalese, not going to understand the nuances of what needs to be done to get it right. And maybe it will eventually, but it's a risk that you're taking as a business, right? It really is a risk.
I feel like we're going to get some really interesting copyright law cases coming up at some point with AI.
Eventually it's going to be someone else's ad, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the basis of AI really, especially at the moment, is it knows what has been done. It doesn't know what has not been done. And, when we're talking about creative genius or whatever, that's because someone's making something that has not been done yet. So there's going to be a lot of crossover, and you already see that now. And especially we had this conversation a few times with a few other guests saying like, how are you using AI? And the common trend really is just from productivity, just to help you to sift through the larger pieces of work if you've got lots of content and you want to pull out some insights or something like that. But the final product or the end human element of it is still the human. Like we're using it to get to that point quicker, but the actual polished product is something is an output from a human being. But yeah, I'd be really interested to see, like you said, in a few years' time, there will be some incredible stuff that you won't be able to tell the difference between someone shooting on camera versus someone just inputting some data into the AI. But at the moment, like Erica said, there are a few 7 fingers or maybe just 3 fingers. But everything's normal these days. Could be a real person.
True.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. So how are you guys using it, just out of interest?
So we've used it a little bit for producing. So we have a client that we work with, which requires a lot of outputs. So I can't share too much, but they essentially need lots and lots of outputs and with some wording kind of tweaked. And we use it for some of that to speed up that process. But generally, it still needs someone to go and make sure that it's exactly what the client asked for. So you're going to have to go and check it anyway, right? As part of the process.
But it's doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Exactly. And it goes down to what you were saying about efficiency. But generally, like we're still learning ourselves, and we want to make sure that we still want to create work that we are creating, right? We don't want to rely on machines for everything, even though they can be helpful sometimes. So yeah, for us, it's definitely a journey. We're learning as we go, as are many brands and other production companies. But we're trying to use it to be efficient, and I think that's we enjoy the benefits that brings.
And also concept creation. I've just remembered, Vin, we also did an awesome hospital cash ad together, didn't we?
We did.
Which was a first for the insurance company I was working for. I'd never done video ever. So that, I think it took us, what, 8 months to get approved? But anyway,
It's quick.
Yeah, well, that's quite a common thing in, you know, lead time from, it's one of two things, right? So it's either I need a video tomorrow and it needs to be live action and shot in 4 locations across the country, or it's we're thinking about video now, and then they, you know, the lead time can be anything from now to next year. We have clients that come back a year later because then they've planned for it and they've got everything set up behind it. Sorry, Erica.
No, that's fine. I was just saying that concept, again, for someone who's never done video before, just had a product. And so I think we did give you a good brief in terms of who the client was and how they buy and all that kind of stuff. But not having ever translated it into video, the creative concept that came, and I think your team provided us with 4 or 5 different options that we could then look at and go, oh, that's a little bit off brand. That one speaks to us. Hey, if we tweak this piece from there, this will work for us. That I'm not sure AI can do, right? Just really understanding the brand nuances and the customer, and then translating it into a message that's going to work for everyone involved.
Yeah, for sure. We've recently just won a pitch where we did exactly that. We had to come up with several different concepts for a client who's, again, going on TV. It sounds like all we do is TV. We don't. We do lots of different types of video. But and again, a good brief. We went back with several different options for the client. We presented them, and actually they liked all of the options, but they felt that the one that they'd like to proceed with can work with lots of their products and across different platforms. And again, it's like trying to think creative is one thing, but ensuring that it's doing the job that you've been asked for it to do is the other thing. Is it achieving what you set out to do at the beginning? So yeah.
And there's so much. I was actually talking to someone this week about especially when 2 different brands with different voices try and work together. And I was involved in an interesting combination with Virgin and an insurance company, right? And the Virgin brand being fun and upbeat and lively, and insurance, and this was funeral insurance, so really the opposite end of the scale. And the ad they came up with were skeletons dancing around the grave, right? And it was like,
wow,
it's not going to work. Like, you can look at it and go, well, culturally, it was a complete mismatch. So that was the first thing. But from a brand perspective, a brand that understood their brand and didn't understand the product. So I'm not convinced that AI is going to pick up those kind of nuances, where a human will look at that going, yeah, I'm not sure, skeletons dancing around a grave is going to sell funeral insurance. Like, maybe we need to try something else. Then we can talk all day about video. Thank you. But tell us, if anyone wants to get in touch, maybe someone's thinking about starting video, how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me on. So if you want to find out a little bit more about what Fable Studios can do, you can visit our website, which is www.fablestudios.tv. Or you can reach out to me. My email is vin@fablestudios.tv, and I'd happily have a chat with you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And please do reach out to Vin. He's awesome to chat to as well, as you can hear. And they do some awesome stuff. Alex, your big takeaway from today?
Well, I think if you're going to work with an agency such as that work with an agency like with Vin, I think the most important thing is the brief. I think we've done many briefs before, and we also had a better outcome when we put a lot more detail into those briefs. So yeah, not keeping the brief, keep the brief long and extended and detailed. And I think that's a key point for me from today.
Awesome. Vin, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Do you know what? You put me on the spot. No, I don't think there is, but just thank you very much for listening.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, Vin. It's been an absolute pleasure. Alex, it's been fun as always, and I will see you again next time.
Thank you, Vin. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.